I'm missing. Well, that didn't work out really well. Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So today I'm back out here in the workshop, starting back on the Allis Chalmers, and I started off with a bang. I started to drain the hydraulic fluid out of the transmission, and I ended up getting it everywhere. Made a huge spill, biggest spill I can ever remember doing. So the mistake I made was I tried to use a funnel to direct the oil over and down into the bucket, and there's a filter screen in here. And it plugged up immediately. That oil wouldn't go through it. It just filled right up and just went everywhere. And I got quite a bit on the floor before I was able to get the plug back into it. So the bucket, now I've got a board underneath one side so that the bucket is actually tilted over enough to catch the oil. And that's what I should have done to begin with instead of trying to use this funnel. But it did catch some stuff down in here, right? It's some small stuff, no big pieces. But that does have me concerned on what we're going to get into when we open the transmission up. And the oil itself did not look the greatest. It actually looked fairly old. It could have been in, I don't know how long it's been in there. But has me a little worried when we open this up. But anyway, the plan is I'm going to take off the lift arm section here with the PTO shaft. And I'm going to try to get this disassembled. And we may end up, I think we're going to be able to see into the transmission, which we have this off. But I may end up taking off the top plate as well so we can look down from the top. But that's what we're planning on doing today, is opening up the back half of this tractor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this hydraulic assembly here that's on the top, and then we'll go ahead and take off the whole lift arm. So this is the hydraulic line coming from the front of the tractor to provide the hydraulics back here. So what worries me is this is a plate that bolts on to the bottom, but over here they've welded it together, and they've welded the bottom plate. Well, there's more to it than that. There's actually like some kind of hydraulic hose attached right there. I'm going to assume that that is attached to the lifted cylinder for these lift arms. I mean, a regular socket doesn't even want to fit on it. Yep, you can't get a socket on them, you have to do a wrench. So whoever's worked on this before has made this very difficult. So they welded this bottom plate here and here. They've tied it to the back where the PTO is. So this used to be a separate plate, it appears. And then the second thing is on the bottom of it, they've welded another plate, and it's in the way of all the bolts. So I was able to get the front two out, but these back two, you can't get a socket on them. Took me forever. I got them backed out till they're hitting the plate now. You can't remove these bolts because they've welded this plate in the way. So hopefully I can still get this all apart. It's worrying me because if this has to pull straight out, I'm not going to be able to get it to pull straight out with those bolts in there. But I'm not for sure. We're going to go ahead, we're going to get a crane holding this up. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the bolts off around here and we'll see what happens. Well, would you look at that? That welded piece is right in the way of getting that bolt out as well. This whole weld job is a gift that keeps on giving. Well, I'll be able to break it loose, get it loosened, but I don't think it's going to come out. Not till we start sliding this out. And the more I looked at this, is right here, I don't know if you can see it, there's an alignment pin. So it does slide straight on. So you got to get it off of that pin. This is not going to want to come apart. I'm going to go ahead and take this cover off right here. I think it's just holding the seal in for the PTO shaft. Well, that's probably the easiest piece that'll come off right there. What I've decided to do is just cut the welds on this plate here and just remove that plate so that I can take the bolts out. So, wish me luck. All right, we got the first side cut free from where this plate was welded on. I just got to get the other side. All right, got that side off. All right, so this side isn't going to come off because it's welded right there, but I just need to get this bolt out. Once I get the bolt out, this should slide off the back of the tractor. There we go. So I'm to the point where I think I'm ready to start taking this off of here. So I went ahead and I stopped. I looked at the manual, and it appears we need to pull the PTO shaft out before we pull this off. Now, the only thing holding the PTO shaft on was actually that cap. It should pull right out of there, but I need to drain the power director as well, and that's the compartment right in front of the transmission. So I went ahead, take the drain plug out. It's right below the clutch pedal here, and I'm draining that right now. So the transmission's empty, the power director is empty, and we should be able to pull the PTO shaft straight out the back, and then we can finally take this lift arm assembly out. So the PTO shaft is just going through a seal in between those two compartments, so you just got to be careful when you pull it out. So get a little bit of resistance here. There we go. And there is the PTO shaft. See, it's got the same end on the other end where it slides in, and the power director side. So now underneath the right-hand brake compartment, there is actually a set screw right there, and we have to pull that set screw out. And then inside of the brake compartment, I believe there is a pin down here, and we can pull this out, and that will release the lift cylinder that's inside of here that's connected to these arms. So my understanding, that is a bolt threaded into the pin, and we need to pull that pin. They probably left the bolt in there to keep the threads clean. So I'm going to back it out a little bit so that we can get on it and pry. Well, my camera ended up dying on me, so didn't really get that on film. But I don't want to do it again either. So this pin right here, this is inside of the bottom of this housing here, and it holds in the back of the lift cylinder for these arms. So there's a hydraulic cylinder hidden up inside of there. So it would sit in there, and then this set screw went into that slot, and it held it into place from underneath. Now the idea is you're supposed to actually thread a bolt into here, and then be able to get behind the bolt and pull this out. The problem was this bolt was left in there. It is seized, tightened in all the way, seized. And so you couldn't get any lip of anything to be able to get a pry bar on and pull it out. So what I had to end up doing is through the PTO shaft here, I ended up putting a board in there and a pry bar in there, and I was able to get in there and like pry against that pin, and I was able to get it to push out into the brakes housing on the side, and then I was able to get it to pull out from there. So now that this is out, that cylinder is free. Everything should be free from this now, and I can finally try to pull this off of there. But this was a challenge. I did put this in a vise just a second ago to try to get this off of there, and I still couldn't get the nut out of the end. So definitely needs a little bit of work to get this fixed, but I think we're finally ready to take this off of here. So this has definitely been a struggle today. All right, so there's a gasket in here. We got that broke free. This now is rocking back and forth on the alignment pins. Hopefully we can pop it off the pins. And it still doesn't want to go. Well, at this point in time, the manual just says to unbolt it and remove it. And I don't know. I wish I had a couple wedges. I only got this one. I need two of them. If this is this hard to come off of here, what do you think it's going to be like to put back on? I think it will be a pain to put it back on. Oh my goodness, I am so close. Oh, there's one side. Oh, there's the other side. All right. I couldn't believe it. I actually was going to give up. I thought I needed some more tools. Now you're going to see the lift cylinder that's in here. There it is. That was definitely pretty bound up trying to get it to slide off these alignment pins. So here's the lift cylinder. You can see it, and that was the pin we took out, was the back side of this lift cylinder. And then this hydraulic line goes up here to this hydraulic assembly on the top. So glad we got it off of there. So looking at the back of the tractor, right there you can see this is the differential in here. And this is what turns your axles, right? And then the PTO shaft went through that opening down in there. There we go. There we go. Just comes apart, one-way acting cylinder. Hydraulic fluid only goes in the bottom. It's got, I think 2 or 3 O-rings inside of here that you can replace. Well, I took the snap ring off of here, and I definitely struggled with it. I hate these old snap rings. Oh, man. Oh, all right. That's a solid piece of steel right there. All right, it's 4 days later now. This has been soaking with penetrating oil. I'm gonna try to get this off again. We'll just kind of go easy with it. I'm gonna go ahead and try to heat this up with a torch. See if we can break it free. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give up on the lift arms for now, and I'm going to go ahead and take the cover off the transmission, and we'll take a peek inside. So this rubber boot is split. I'll have to end up ordering a new boot for this. So I think this knob is kind of like press fit down over it. I think I just pulled it off. All right, I got it off. That was actually pretty on there pretty good. All right, there we are. You can see the little shifting forks that shift the gears around. All right, we'll go ahead and look in the transmission. You can see all the different gears on here. So some of these move with the shifting forks. So this one will shift back and forth with the shifter. This one will shift back and forth with the shifter. That kind of locks some of these inner shafts together. And then there's one way down in there, and it moves as well. So I think as long as you have this out like that, now we're in neutral, and you can see it spin freely. So I do see a little bit of wear right here where this gear will shift into that gear. They're both worn where they mate together. Can't hardly see that other gear down there, but they're both worn on this edge right here. And that's probably from grinding the gears. I've done it a few times myself. So, just feeling the backlash in here. There is a little bit of backlash on this gear right here, but I think the rest of them don't feel too bad. That one looks like it's in the right spot. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cool back down. Once it cools, it may free up. I've had that happen before. So if you remember this is my 15-ton hydraulic puller. It stopped working on me last time. There's actually like a little check valve in the top, and that ball bearing in there got stuck. And I got that freed up. This is working. I tried to get it to fit on here, but these jaws are so thick, they actually won't fit around this lip. That's too small of a lip for it to grab. But this hydraulic one, I would prefer to use it if I could. It's just, once you get it on there, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more powerful. This one I think is only like a 6 or 7 ton puller. And it ends up just not having enough power to be able to pull some of this stuff. And this stuff is stuck on there really good. This is probably the worst thing I dread on this whole tractor build, is just trying to get some of these things apart because they are just stuck. So the jaws on the big puller, they actually sit in there like that. You can see this back corner is hitting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grind these off and try to get that to where this can hook on there better. And then we'll try the hydraulic puller. Well, the jaws are definitely going to fit better now, so we'll try the hydraulic puller. Hopefully I can press this off of here. Oh my. That is a lot of pressure. Oh my. I'm putting 15 tons of pressure on here and it is not coming off. Oh, that thing is on there. Didn't take much heat for it to come off. Made me jump. Oh yeah. A little more heat to it. Well, it didn't take very much heat and it popped free. Actually made me jump. Oh. Oh. All right. Ha-ha. First one's off. Man, that was a challenge. So this clevis here that was attached to the hydraulic cylinder, there's 2 roll pins going through it, through this shaft. I'm going to try to drive those out. Don't have the right size punch, so I'm just using a cut-off bolt. Oh, they're split shaft. That's cool. So that's one side. Did not realize that was going to be a split shaft. Man, if I would have realized this was a split shaft, I would have drove those pins out. I could have just pulled these out with the arms on them and then taken them to the hydraulic press. So, like I said, I haven't broke one of these down before, or a tractor. And yeah, I made it harder than what it should have been. So Rebecca ended up getting me this 20-ton hydraulic press for Christmas. This is the Harbor Freight model. And it normally comes with like a standard bottle jack, and you'd have to sit here and like hand crank the jack to get it to press out any bearings or anything. So I ended up replacing it with an air hydraulic bottle jack. So now it has an air hose that attaches to it. And it sounds like a little piston engine as it runs, but it actually cranks this down a lot faster, a lot easier to use. So yeah, that's a lot. I think that's going to be a lot faster, a lot easier. Well, I ran out of stroke. I'm going to go ahead and just put an impact socket in here to make up the distance. There we go. So I finally got the lift arms taken apart, and I made that way harder than what it should have been. I didn't realize this was 2 different shafts in here, so I could have pulled or drove out those pins in the middle that was holding them, and I could have pulled each one of these out each side and then take it over to the hydraulic press, and I could have pressed these out on the press. So definitely made this harder than it should have been. So this whole time I've been thinking it was one shaft. So I went back to my manual here, and the parts diagram shows, it only shows one shaft. So when you look at this diagram, it appears that it is just one shaft that goes all the way through. Not until you look at the actual parts on the parts list, then you see there is a left-hand shaft and a right-hand shaft. So this whole time I thought there was one shaft and there was two.
Even after I looked at it a second and third time, I still did not see that the second shaft was on there. It was just above the main diagram.
So this has probably been the worst part of the tractor. This was definitely the hardest to get off the back of the tractor. So several things went wrong. We had the metal that was welded to the bottom that we had to cut out just so we could get the bolts out of this. And then the hydraulic cylinder actually goes in here under this differential. The pin wouldn't pull out the way it was supposed to. We had to push it out from the inside. And then these alignment pins were very hard to get off of there. It wanted to bind. I think it wanted to sag a little bit, plus just trying to get it to pull evenly off of those pins was definitely difficult. And I had a hard time just getting it off the alignment pins. So definitely has been a struggle, and I'm kind of glad that we got this all torn down. So this is as far as I think we're gonna go with the tractor as far as this back half. I don't think I wanna tear into the transmission or the differential. I may get in there and check a few more things, but I would really like to not get into that. That's just a whole other animal. This is my first time tearing down a tractor like this, so I think I want to stay away from that right now. So now comes the part of finally cleaning everything up, tearing it all down, getting it ready for paint, new bearings, new seals, new bushings, that kind of thing. So I think the worst part of that's going to be the cleaning, of course. So I did kind of make it worse on myself. A lot of this I have actually made more difficult on myself. So after I started tearing this down, I had several people say, oh, you should have pressure washed that before you pulled it into the garage. And I 100% agree. There's a lot of this that probably would have came off with a pressure washer. And I wished I would have really cleaned this thing a lot better before I brought it in here. So now I've got twice as much cleaning it seems like I got to do. I mean, everything is just completely filthy. So that's the part I'm going to hate, is just getting everything cleaned up. But I think that's going to be it for this video. The goal for this is to actually have it put together and back running by the end of May. That's my goal. That's going to give me, what do I got, 4.5 months from now, somewhere in there. So that's going to give me a little while to be able to try to get everything cleaned up and painted, and then I've got a lot of parts that I need to source. So one of them is going to be this gasket. I don't know if I can get this gasket that goes on here. I don't even know if anybody makes it. So it was actually a gasket that actually had woven wire inside of it. So as it peeled back, you can see in the middle of this gasket is like a screen, like a metal screen is inside of here. So I don't know if you can buy this gasket material and I can cut my own gasket and use this same type, or if I just want to measure the thickness and just put some regular gasket material on there instead. But this I thought was unique, that it had this metal screen embedded in the middle of the gasket, so it kind of reinforces it. So I don't know if you can find that stuff or not. So I definitely have a lot of part searching to do, and hopefully I can find everything that I need. So any of these other gaskets, I'm sure several of these I'm just going to have to end up cutting out and making myself. But I think that's going to be it for this video. Now it's time for me to start cleaning everything up. Not a lot of that's going to be very camera worthy, so that'll be all off camera. But yep, wish me luck with that. So I know it's going to be boring and tedious, but that's it for today's video, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.